everyone, welcome back to my channel Miss Pretty Plants. Today I wanted to spend some time and give you my first ever full garden tour of my garden. I am not going to go into very much detail with all the plants, but I just wanted to show you what my garden looks like. It is first week of October, and it just rained today this morning, so I thought it would be a perfect time to show you what my garden looks like. As it goes into fall, everything is still kind of looking lush and green, and I'm very excited to share with you what this garden looks like. So I'm going to start with my side yard. This is a bunch of rose plants that I have here. There is a climbing rose, a very bright pink climbing rose in the back here, which has done blooming, but it's putting out a lot of new growth, which is nice, and it's filling up this fence area and the trellis, which I really like. And then there is a yellow rose in front of it, which is also putting out a lot of new leaves. I have a bluebeard in there, which kind of flowered a lot, attracted so many bees, and now I can see there are some new buds on it as well. This is a phlox which is done flowering. I guess I should have deadheaded this and maybe it would have produced more blooms, but I like it. I mean, it's nice and green and it's tall. It's a pink phlox. In the back there I have a purple pillar rose of Sharon, which I planted this year, and it's put out a lot of new growth. It didn't bloom as much this year, but I can see that there is a beautiful bud on it, so it's going to bloom soon. It did bloom earlier a little bit, but now it's put out a lot of new leaves and growth. So I put it in this spot because it's a narrow plant, and it's going to grow in a pillar shape, tall and less wide, so I like it there. And then there is a sand cherry in the back there, which adds nice purple foliage there, and it's pretty covered in pretty white flowers in the spring. And here I have a it's a smoke bush tree, which is kind of anchors the side of this yard, and it adds a lot of privacy for me. So I like this tree here. I keep it trimmed and pruned, and I'm trying to shape it more as a tree and expose its lower branches. So that's what I'm trying to train it as. And as you can see, it's in a difficult spot, so it's a little hard for me to get to it, but I do love it there, and I let it grow. It kind of started growing on its own, and I let it grow there. This is a pinky winky standard that I planted here this year. It did really well. It's settling well, and it gave me a lot of blooms, and the blooms are not the healthiest looking right now. It was their first year, but I think still for that they did a great display of blooms, and I'm enjoying this tree here, and I hope next year it's fuller and more lush. So I'll move on to so here I have some evergreens. This kind of frames my porch. I have some planters here. I have a jasmine planter that I take indoors, which I am planning to do so today, or in a couple of days, take it indoors. I have some plants here that I need to repot and take inside. This is my planter in the front. I haven't created fall planters yet. I usually don't create fall planters. I go straight into winter because these flowers are still doing well. I may add some pumpkins around here to make it more fall-like, but I usually let these flowers do their thing till frost, until they're done. This is also a really pretty hibiscus planter with a lot of ivy, which I will also take inside and winterize. So moving on, this is kind of done. It's also flushing out some new flowers and buds, so this has been constantly blooming for me, this planter. So really excited that it's still doing well and giving me lots of pretty pink blooms. So yeah, this flushed out many it's been flowering non-stop all summer. Some other planters that I have in my front porch, these are begonias. Love this color orange, which I think it fits in now with the fall as well, so I really like it. And this is going to keep flowering till frost, and it's really pretty. And this here is my bougainvillea. This has done really well here as well. It's almost done flowering now, but it still has some blooms on it. I am planning to take this inside as well and winterize it. Some other planters that I have in my front porch, these are begonias. Love this color orange, which I think it fits in now with the fall as well, so I really like it. And this is going to keep flowering till frost, and it's really pretty. And this here is my bougainvillea. This has done really well here as well. It's almost done flowering now, but it still has some blooms on it. I am planning to take this inside as well and winterize it. This is what my front garden looks like right now. These are the roses. They're doing really well. Here, these are the Oh So Easy double red roses. They're doing really well. Also, the salvia is putting out a lot of new blooms. And here is my new bed of bobo hydrangeas and coneflowers and lavender, which is also blooming right now. I love the colors on the bobo. They're turning this beautiful pink color as they're aging, the flowers, and they look really pretty. I'm really excited for what this bed looks like next year. And here it is. The squirrels have started digging out my tulip bulbs already, so I don't know how much tulip I'm going to get next year, because I feel like they've dug out most of my bulbs from here, and they seem to be picking out all of these bulbs from here. So I'm really sad to see this, that all my bulbs have disappeared from here. So hoping some of them that are hidden have survived, and I'll get some blooms here next year. These are the coneflowers, are doing really well. Really excited to see these coneflowers. Very pretty. Love all the colors over here. So this is looking really well. There you go. There's evidence they've taken all my tulip bulbs. Makes me really sad to see that, but I mean, I planted them quite deep, but they've dug here and they've discovered them. So here's another coneflower, so pretty. Love this color a lot. It's very pretty. And look at these pinks. They look so beautiful. Yeah, so these are the geraniums that are also still blooming. They're doing really well and blooming. Yeah, and another look at these roses. They're so beautiful. Gorgeous. Like, this is stunning. Moving over to this side. Everything here looks really lush. I love how the sedum looks at this time of the year. Adds such a nice pop of color back there. I have a hydrangea bloom back there too, which is a surprise for me, and it's looking so cute with the pink of the sedum. The lavender plant is also flushing out new blooms, and so is this foxglove, which is so cute. This is putting out a lot of new shoots, so it's looking really pretty. Yeah, the roses are also putting on a lot of new growth, so I think they may bud and bloom again before frost. Exciting to see that. This one already has some buds, so very healthy. They're looking good, and they're doing really well. In here, that's the semirific rose of semirific hibiscus, very awesome hibiscus I planted yesterday, and it's doing really well too. It's, I think, going to open up those two flowers tomorrow. They look like they're ready to open. My firelight hydrangea is doing really well back there. It's coloring up really pretty, so that's doing well. The little zebra grass has blooms on it as well, these plumes, and they look so pretty and wispy. I love that. Um, this is my white rose tree. It's put on all new growth here, and it is filled with buds. So I think this one is going to bloom and be covered in white very soon. So I'm really excited to see that. So here I have some red cone flowers. They're doing really well as well. They're putting on a lot of new flowers, which is nice to see. The Weigela, the Sonic Bloom Pink Weigela, is I think done with its blooms. It may flush out more blooms, but because it's its first year, it hasn't really given me the show. I think it's going to be more of a show in spring, so I'm waiting for that. The Miss Ruby butterfly bush is doing really well here. It's healthy, it's full of blooms. This Agastache is doing really well too. It's full of blooms. It's been blooming all summer. And yeah, and here are more cone flowers that are blooming still. This Russian sage is also blooming very nicely, and I love the color combination between the coneflower salmony pink and this purple. It looks so beautiful. I also have the Gatsby Girl oak leaf hydrangea. It's also changed colors and it's looking really pretty back there. This is the first year it's in the ground, so it's doing really well for that. These blanket flowers are still blooming. I haven't deadheaded as I should, but I like it in all stages. If you don't have this plant in your garden, I would recommend you get this because it blooms all summer. It's been blooming all summer and it's beautiful. The lilies are done blooming. The foliage is still good, so I'm leaving it the way it is. Haven't touched the foliage. And then this is a quick fire hydrangea, which has done, I mean, the flowers were kind of roasted in the sun, but the leaves are putting on new growth, so it's settling in. This is the first year it's in the ground, so I'm giving it some time to settle in. And I wanted to show you this phlox that is blooming here, and it's so beautiful. I love the variegated leaves on this. Very pretty. I love the colors. What the other side of the front garden looks like, the sedum is happily blooming. There's a little yellow sunflower that I put here, which is also blooming. It's looking really pretty with the pink. These are the pincushion flowers that I planted the other day, and they're looking really nice as well. The blanket flowers are also blooming. The coneflowers are done blooming, but this Prince Charming butterfly bush is looking really nice here and settling in. Everything else here is looking good. These are hydrangeas that I have back here, which are also doing really well. Look at the color on this hydrangea. This is a really old hydrangea. I don't know the name of this one, but the blooms are just beautiful on this one. They age really well, and it's in full sun all day. It doesn't get any extra water, and it's done really well. It's covered in blooms. They're beautiful, just beautiful. Look at these blooms. They're stunning. And this is a rose of Sharon that I have. It's a double purple. It's also starting to put out some new blooms. It's kind of mostly done blooming, but I can see that it's putting out some new flowers and new growth. So this one needs a good amount of trimming next year, which I will plan to do on this shrub. It's grown pretty ginormous, and it hasn't really self-seeded or created any baby seedlings. I think this is the sterile variety, so it's done really well for me. I haven't had to worry about picking a bunch of seedlings. Love this color of blue against all the other colors that are happening here with the hydrangea. So I'm gonna go into my backyard now and show you what the side yard looks like, what the plants look like on this day. Yeah, so starting with this portion of my garden, this is my tiger eye sumac. It is already starting to change some color. I can see it's getting more of the reds and oranges on it. I can't wait for it to completely turn colors and how pretty it's going to look. everything along here. This is a dianthus. It is also flushing out some new flowers, so it's nice to see that. I have a bunch of daisies that I planted this year, also producing new shoots, which is nice to see. This is a flower that I have. I think it's in the cinquefoil family. It has these beautiful pink flowers. I transplanted it here a couple of months ago, and it was looking a little bit sad, but I can see now it's turning, you know, it's starting to look more healthy, and it's flushing out new leaves, and it's settling in, and it's producing these pretty pink flowers. Actually, this blooms all summer and gives beautiful pink flowers. I'm hoping it kind of spreads out in this area, and it's able to produce that effect next year, where it's kind of spills over a bit and creates these pretty pink delicate flowers on it. I love how these pretty delicate flowers look on it. Here are some, these are carpet roses. I think these are also pink carpet roses. They're also settling in well, putting out a lot of new growth. Here's another coneflower. Love the color on this one, looks so pretty. This is another rose that I transplanted here. It's also put out a lot of new growth and new bud. This one is the Veronica that I put in the back here. It's also giving me a lot of new blooms. So things are settling well. This is the sedum, which has bloomed wonderfully, and it's looking really pretty. The coneflowers are all done blooming. This was a big flush of pink coneflowers. They are done blooming. In the back there, I have a quick fire hydrangea that I planted this year. It's settling in, and I am hoping that over the next few years it fills in there and it adds the height in the back of this border. I have some climbing roses there. This one is Jacob's Ladder, and this one is Climbing Rose Blaze, which is a bright red. So they're all settling in, doing well, putting out new shoots. I will start training them more next year, because they're still settling in and producing their canes. So over here I have a balloon flower, which is also done its flowering cycle. I have another perennial hibiscus, which is also done flowering, but it's still growing new leaves. It may produce more buds, I'm not sure, but the leaves are already changing its color. This is a quick firelight tidbit hydrangea that I planted here, and I love the colors on this plant. It's already changing colors in its leaves, and its flowers are very pink, so this looks really pretty. I can't wait for this shrub to come back next year and see what it's going to do. This is a limelight hydrangea that I planted here last year, and it's done well. It's put on a lot of growth. The flowers weren't that impressive for me this year, but I think it's because it's just settling in and putting on growth. So we'll see next year how this one performs. I have some lilies here that I've put in. I have another rose here, and here are a couple of plants that are waiting to go in the ground. These are blue ice Amsonias. So I haven't decided where they're gonna go, but I'm gonna put them somewhere in the side yard. So over here I have another double Rose of Sharon. This is a purple one. This is you know, done blooming, but it's putting on a lot of new growth. So it's nice to see that it's healthy and it's doing well. So here is another flush of coneflowers that I have here. So if you followed my other videos, you would have seen that this is a recent addition to my side yard. I've extended my side border from the back all the way to the edge of the hardscaping. So I think this section is fairly new, and it's settling in well, and it's doing really well. And I also transplanted this Puxter Buddleia from a spot where it wasn't doing well, and it's already doing well and flushing out all these new blooms. So I'm really excited to see that. What I wanted to also show you is these blooms on the Pinky Winky hydrangea. I also planted this not too long ago, if you've been following my videos, but I wanted to show you what these blooms look like. They look beautiful. I love the color change on it, how it is two-tone, and it's so beautiful. Just stunning. These are the summerific hibiscus plants that are settling in well. And the bobo hydrangeas are also doing really well. The colors are looking stunning here. Just beautiful. Like, this is just beautiful. And look at these cone flowers. They're just stunning. And the lavender plants are also doing really well and settling in. The Oh So Easy lemon zest roses are just doing fabulous here. They're constantly pushing out new buds and opening new flowers every day. So I'm really excited with this addition here. It's just beautiful. Yeah, the hibiscus plants are settling in. The Vigella is settling in. It has some blooms on it. I also put a bunch of cone flowers here. I have some roses that I moved here, which I'm expecting that they will perform better next year in this spot. This is the fleece flower, which is also doing well. It has been blooming non-stop since I planted it here, and I'm really excited to have this plant in my garden. And it's going to fill out this whole area, so I'm really excited about that. This is another hibiscus, summerific hibiscus here. This is very awesome. And then I have a little red bud seedling that is growing really well in the back there. Bunch of other hostas. That's a little quick fire hydrangea, which is also doing really well, and it's looking really healthy there. This is the Yuki cherry blossom deutzia plants that I put here. These are 3 plants that I put here. They're doing really well, settling really well. I can't wait for spring to see the beautiful pink flowers. Those are some asters that I planted in the back there, so I'm hoping that this fills with these aster flowers next year. They're perennials, so I have never tried these in my garden before, so I'm excited to try them and see how they perform next year. And then I have mint and lemon balm in this little raised container here, which is also doing really well. I think I'm going to cut some of this and take it inside soon before it's frosting. This Vigella never reblooms, but it is putting out a new bloom, which is exciting to see. And then over here I have the 2 little lime hydrangeas that are doing really well. They're pushing out a lot of new leaves. These were rescue plants, if you've been following my other videos, and they're doing really well and settling in. These are just some marigolds that I moved here. And then this is the firelight hydrangea, which is also doing really well and settling. It's also pushing out this new bloom, which is nice to see. I love the color on this firelight. The flowers are like a bright white color, and they're so dense. It's beautiful. And more like a ball shape, which is nice. This is the Seven Suns Temple of Bloom tree shrub that I put here. I actually tied it up to these bamboo poles to train it more like a tree. So we'll see how this goes. It's doing well. It's settling in this spot, so I'm excited for this plant to get bigger and taller. It's going to be a slow process, but I'm excited to have it in my garden, and I think it's settling really well here. And this is also a lavender plant that's over here. So this is what the side garden looks like. It's filling out, it's lush, and it's beautiful. Here's a view of my shade garden. Here is the pachysandra that I put in as a ground cover in this shady spot. There is not much that grows here, not even grass. So I'm hoping to grow some pachysandra here to add some greenery and some ground cover and erosion control here, because this spot really needed something that would grow fast and would fill with greenery. So that's what I have here. The coleus is still doing really well here. I took some cuttings the other day, and I have a video on how I took the cuttings down below, so I'll put a link in here for the for that video. So I've already taken some cuttings, and I'm letting whatever is left grow till it's cold. And then here I have a lot of basil. I have holy basil, I have chocolate mint, and a banana plant, which I will be taking some of the cuttings from and taking them inside. And then the banana plant I'm going to repot and take it inside shortly. So yeah, so on this side I have a beautiful hosta here that's doing really well. I have a tough stuff hydrangea back here, which I recently planted. It's doing really well too. It has a lot of like shoots and new leaves and buds for next year. So I'm excited about this plant in this spot. It's been a tough spot for me to grow anything, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed to see how this is going to do here, and I'm hoping it's able to survive and come back next year and look just as beautiful. This is the winter glow Virginia that I planted here. These are some grasses. These are some carex grasses that are here. There is some purple columbine. There's 3 plants of purple columbine here, which are also putting out a lot of new leaves, which is nice to see. So I'm looking forward to these flowers next year. I have a goldenrod plant here. I have a bunch of hostas here. This is the Shadowland Woolala hosta that I planted this year. So this is doing really well as well. So yeah, everything is looking good here. There's a bunch of hostas, and there's a bunch of hellebores here as well that I planted this year. So I'm looking forward to flowers and lush greenery in here. It's a hard spot to grow things, but it's slowly filling in. So this is also a fern that I moved here. It's just a wild woodland fern that's here. Hopefully it will catch on and grow. A bunch more hellebores here, bunch more hostas here. So yeah, there's a bunch more hellebores here. That's a Sum and Substance hosta that I put over there, and that's a variegated. Trying to think what this is called. It'll come to me. This is a shade plant as well. I'm forgetting the name of this plant, but this is a shade plant as well, and it spreads through rhizomes. So this is the variegated variety. Really like this plant, and it's doing really well. I have some sweet woodruff here. I have another fern there. So everything is settling in, doing really well in this garden. So if I go around this tree, I also have another pinky winky shrub that I planted here, and I think it's settling well as well and doing well here in this corner. I also have a sweet emotion abelia here, which I also planted this year. I'm going to see how this does. It's just an experiment to see. This spot has been really tough to grow anything in because of the tree roots and the dry shade. It doesn't really have dry shade, it has dry sun, and the tree roots suck up all the moisture from this part of the ground. So it's very hard. There's a lot of root competition, very hard to grow things. So yeah, it's been a challenge to grow anything here, but I'm glad with whatever green I'm seeing here, and it's going to be a slow process, but things are settling in this spot. So this is, I think, a peacock lily. It's blooming. It's so pretty. There's a dogwood in the back there. There is another hibiscus in the back there, which is also settling in. I think it's a Rose of Sharon in the back there. And then this is a black lace elderberry, which I transplanted from another part of my garden. It was really struggling here, but now I can see that it's putting out some new leaves. So there is hope that it's going to survive. It's a tough plant, so I'm hoping that it's going to survive and offer me some coverage and privacy in this section where nothing else seems to want to grow. Yeah, I also have some coneflowers in this area that are doing well. I have a lilac in here that is also doing well. I mean, it doesn't seem to mind the dry, and it's putting out some buds for next year. So it's taking its time to grow, but that's okay. It's better to have something settle in here and grow than, you know, worrying about something that's going to grow too fast. So this is what this side area looks like. It's got some lilies, it's got some ditch lilies actually, which I didn't know that they were what they were before. Somebody gave them to me last year and I planted them, but I've left them in this section because it's very hard to grow other things in here. So I will pull them out as and when things start filling out and other things take over. So I'll see how this goes. I pulled them out of another section already, and the only place I left them was in here. We'll see how they do next year. This is a 9 bark. It's a copper wine, I think, 9 bark, and it's was kind of taking its time to settle here. As you can see, it was almost dying, but now I think with all the rain it's come back, and I have hope for this plant for next year. This is the other part of my garden. This, I call it primarily a hydrangea bed because it is mostly hydrangeas in here. So I have a lemon lace elderberry that I put in this spot. Struggled a bit, but it's also coming back to life in this spot, so it's looking really nice. I like the wispy foliage it offers here. This is a strawberry Sunday hydrangea that I planted here. I think it's doing really well here as well. It's looking healthy. I have a lupin in there. I have a quick fire hydrangea that I planted in there. I have this Decadence Baptisia blueberry Sunday that I also recently planted in here. It's looking really well, and it's looking like it's gonna like this spot. I have a little lime hydrangea in there as well, which I also rescued recently, and it's flushing out new growth, which is nice to see. Yeah, it's settling really well. I have a lungwort fulminaria plant here as well. I have a tough stuff hydrangea here as well, which was struggling, but now it's looking like it's settling in this spot. Here are some coneflowers, powwow white echinacea flowers that I rescued, and I planted them here. They're settling in. I think I'm going to come back and give them a nice trim so that they can most likely flush out new leaves from the base. So I'm going to come out and do that shortly because the leaves are just not looking healthy. They are wilted and dying back, so I'll come back and deal with that. There's some sedum in here that I transplanted from another spot, so next year this should really fill out. There's also another hydrangea. I think this is a bloomerang hydrangea, but it hasn't really done much this year. It gave me a few blooms and then it was done, so I think it's just settling in. I can see that it has some new leaves, so it should come back nicely next year. And there are a couple more tough stuff hydrangeas here. This one is, I think, tough stuff red. It has redder and a smaller foliage, which is nice and different. And this is the regular tough stuff hydrangea. And here I have some irises that somebody gave me. I planted them here, so I'm excited to see these bloom next year. There's some geranium here. There are some daylilies here. There's another hydrangea in here. There's a little quick fire hydrangea here that also did really well, and it's done blooming. There is blanket flowers here, and there's another rose here. I don't remember the name of this rose, but I recently also rescued this from somewhere and planted it a couple of months ago, and it's doing really well. And there is another, this one is a Susan magnolia shrub that I planted here in the back, so I'm excited to see what this does. If it gets really big for this spot, I might move it, but for now I like it here as a backdrop, and I think it'll be nice in early spring to have something blooming in the back here. Yeah, and this is a forsythia that I have here as well, which I'm also going to keep an eye. If it gets too large, I might move it, but for now I've left it in this bed. So on this other side, I have a bunch of roses. So this is more or less a rose garden. There's a bunch of roses here in all kinds of corals, pinks. I will show them to you more when they bloom. This one is already pushing out some blooms, which is nice to see. There's a coreopsis here. I like this color, it's different. There is some false sunflower there. There are some other cone flowers here as well. There is this variegated hibiscus as well. This is a perennial. Some lavender here. Some other coreopsis here. I think this one is just yellow and it's pretty nice color. There is a sage here that is constantly getting eaten by something. I'm not sure what's eating the sage, but something is. We'll see how this does next year. It didn't really do much this year because it's constantly getting eaten by something. This is a Miss Violet butterfly bush. This one is also doing really well in this spot. Lots of blooms still on it. This is a Speedwell Veronica plant. This is also constantly blooming. So another one I would recommend for your garden if you want a long bloom time. This has been constantly blooming since I planted it. There's also other roses. I think these are mini roses that I put in here. They're also looking really healthy, putting out a lot of new leaves. I have a couple of peony plants in here as well that, you know, looking forward to them in the spring. I will cut these leaves back in a couple more weeks and get them ready for next year. These are cone flowers. I have a dwarf forsythia here as well. I have a Hydrangea limelight prime that I planted in this spot earlier this year, and its blooms are just beautiful and the color change is starting to happen on it. I'm really happy with these. I planted 2 of these and I'm really happy with how these look. This is a reblooming lilac plant that I have in this spot. It's doing really well as well and adjusting. I've moved it a couple of times this season, so I think it's not very happy with me, but I think every time I've moved it, it's done okay. So I am thankful that it's doing well, and this is its final spot in the garden and it can grow here and settle in. Yeah, and this is a knockout rose as well, which I planted this year, and it's also pushing out a lot of new growth. This is the last and final section of my garden, and I just wanted to take you through this. So this section has a lot of black-eyed Susan plants on the edge here. There is a vanilla strawberry hydrangea that I planted this year in this corner here. There is another hydrangea limelight prime that I planted in that spot. I have a Winecraft smoke bush as well in that corner to add purple foliage. I have a black lace elderberry as well that I planted very close to the fence to give me privacy with some sort of a lacy kind of foliage in the back. I'm excited about that plant there. I have a bunch of carpet roses. I have 4 carpet roses that I had rescued earlier in the month, I think a couple of months ago, and I planted them here to create a drift of these roses. So there's 4 of these here and they're doing really well. They haven't bloomed for me yet, but they are settling in, and I can see that they are pushing out a lot of new growth, so it's a good sign. The stems are healthy, so I think next year these should give me the blooms and be happy and healthy here. This is also a knockout rose. I think it's pink and it has a lot of buds, so I'm excited to see it bloom before frost. Lots of cone flowers. There is also another butterfly bush. I think this is Cascade, and I also have another perennial hibiscus in here. I also have a peach tree that I recently planted this year, so I'm excited about that. There is a bunch of irises here. I think these are the regular purple bearded irises. This is also another sedum here. I think this one is called Ruby Dazzle. And there's a geranium over here which is also blooming. Can't wait for this to fill out more next year. I have catmint there. This is a white one which is also really pretty in this spot. I have a baby Joe Pye reed here as well that I planted this year. Everything is still looking good in here. There's a lot of color still. There are some annual salvias that I have in here, which are adding a nice pop of red in this garden. I think I'm going to repeat plant these next year because I love the pop of color they add to the garden. I have some anemones in here which I planted this year, and they are blooming. They look pretty. So yeah, this is a Zinfandel hydrangea as well that I planted this year, and it's doing really well. I have Sonic Bloom Red Vigela here, which is also settling in and doing well. I have a Cleome that is starting to bloom here again, which is nice. This is another perennial hibiscus here. There's more coneflowers there, and I planted a drift of Shasta daisies over there in the back, which are blooming. One of them is blooming and looking really pretty. And there is a quickfire hydrangea in the back there as well. So a lot of these are new plantings. This whole section was revamped and replanted. I moved this lilac shrub from another spot so that it can get more sun, and it's settling in. I'm hoping that it does better next year, and it's not so much in shock, and it actually blooms. It hasn't bloomed in 4 or 5 years, so I'm hoping that this change of location is going to help it. And then here I have a sweet almond shrub. This one is covered in pink blooms in the spring, so right now it's mostly foliage. So yeah, this part gets more shadier as you go more on the inside. I have a yucca plant. I have some sedums. I have another hellebore here. I have a bunch of hostas here that are doing really well. Yeah, everything is looking green and lush. I have a bluebird hydrangea here, which is also looking really healthy and happy here. Yeah, everything. There's some more irises here. This one is an Aphrodite sweet shrub that I planted this year. It's doing really well. It hasn't bloomed. I think probably next year it should show me some blooms. I have some hollyhock in the back there, and I have another quickfire hydrangea. I think this one is a little quickfire, and this is settling well as well and giving me some new blooms. So this is it. This is a tour, a full garden tour. Actually, I have another section that I wanted to show you. It's a little shade garden area as well under my trees that I haven't shown you yet. So this is a section that's under my maple trees that I literally started last year, and it's done really well. So here it is. I remember the name of this plant. This one is called Solomon's Seal. So this is a plant that somebody gave me, and I added it to this section, and it's done really well. It gets these really pretty white bell-shaped flowers in the spring, and it looks really nice. I love the height of this. I have one growing on this side as well, and it looks really, really pretty. And that was the other part that I showed you, was the variegated Solomon's Seal, which I actually bought from a nursery. This is the one that somebody gave me, and it's doing really well. I have other hostas planted in this bed as well that are doing really well. They are not growing as fast as other hostas in the other sections of the garden, but they are starting to fill in, and I'm hoping that in the next 2-3 years this area is filled with green, and that's the hope. And I also have some Vinca minor in here that somebody gave me, so I'm going to let it spread in here as a ground cover. I just want this area to be green and lush and more like a woodland shade garden. So that's the idea in here. I also have some lamium that started in here that's also doing good. I have some columbine in here as well, and I have some lungwort as well in here, pulmonaria. These are really pretty in the spring. They are one of the first ones to bloom in here, and it looks really gorgeous in here. So I have these. Here's another look at the Solomon's Seal. It's really pretty. So that is it. That is a full garden tour that I wanted to quickly share with you today, this first week of October, and things are still looking green and lush. And it's probably one of the last times that the garden is going to look the way it's going to look before cold sets in. So I just wanted to do a quick run of my garden and show you what was still blooming, what is still around here and doing really well. I'm just enjoying the last of these blooms, and things are looking really, really well. So thanks so much for watching this video and spending this time with me to go through my garden and look at my plants. And I'm sure all of you gardeners out there, this is a joy that you share every single day, looking and walking in your gardens. And I kind of wanted to take you for a walk with me in my garden today and share with you the plants I have, the groupings I have, and how I've planted in my garden. So I hope you like this video, and if you have any comments for me, please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thanks so much for watching.